living God. We love you, Lord. Yes, God. Let all the other names fade away. Hallelujah. Till there's only you, God. Something about the name Jesus. you work. Even when I don't feel it, you working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Said with even when I don't feel it, you work. Even when I don't feel it, you working. You never stop working. You never stop. Say it again. Even when I don't see it, you working. And even when I can't feel it, you working. You never stop working. You never stop. Can I get a witness? Even when I don't see it, you working. And even when I don't feel it, you working. You never stop. Yeah. When I don't see it, even when I yeah. Glory to your name, God in the highest. And let's just worship Him in the house. Glory to your name, God. What is the highest praise? Hallelujah. Yeah. See, sometimes when you don't know what to say, we just Jesus.
Oh my goodness. Are you feeling it? Are you letting Him fill you up? Is the presence just flowing wherever you are? He wants it to. I believe it is. Are you ready to say your confessions? Let's say them together. I live by faith and not by sight. It's God's will for me to live an abundant life. And together we're rising up higher through God's power. Oh my goodness, that sounded strong. I believe in it. You're making the devil mad. I know it. And aren't you glad? Hey, keep your faith out there, because we've got one of our God's World pastors, Sam Lee, coming, and he's gonna stir your faith.
One of the worst feelings ever is when you feel like you wasted your money. Have you ever felt like you wasted your money? At the end of last year, in November, Michaela and I, we decided we were gonna start running. We were gonna start running for 20 minutes every day. Now, this is something I do pretty much every year, and it was the first year that I decided to do it with my wife. And so we said, you know what, we're gonna run for 20 minutes, and most of the time we do it for about 3 months straight, just 20 minutes every single day. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a big runner. I just do it to stay healthy. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna run to stay healthy, but it's not something that I actually really enjoy. And so when I run, I don't know about you guys, but I like to listen to music. I love to listen to music. And so what I came up with the idea of is that maybe along the way, as Michaela and I had continued to run for 20 minutes, that stationed along the way, maybe 10 days, maybe at 20 days, maybe at 30 days, there would be some sort of a reward. There would be some sort of a prize. And so what I thought to myself was, okay, after 10 days of running, what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll go buy Michaela and I some new headphones. It'll be great. They'll be wireless. At the point, we were running with wires hanging down everywhere, and it was getting in our way. And so I thought, you know what? After 10 days, I'm going to go, and I'm going to buy us some new headphones. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get us some AirPods. I said, that's a great idea. They're awesome. People love them. I said, you know what? I'm going to go get myself some AirPods. I go and look on the side, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on Apple. I'm like, I'm going to buy these AirPods right here. I look down at the price of them. I look at my bank account. I look down at the price of them again. I look at my bank account. Have you ever done that before? You're like, you're looking at it. You're like trying to crunch numbers. You're like, maybe I can make it work. I said, nah, I don't think it's going to work unless I decide to get one pair. And Michaela and I put one in one ear and one in the other. So I said, okay, that's probably not going to work. And so then I was walking along at Target one day. I looked over to the right, and I saw these Skull candies that were wireless. And I said, hey, those kind of look like AirPods. I mean, I know that they're not the real thing. I know that this is totally a knockoff. This is totally a bootleg AirPod. But I said, you know what? It's a little bit more cost efficient. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get them. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy them. So I bought 2 pairs of them. I said, hey, I walked into the house. I said, hey, baby, look, I got us some knockoff AirPods. Come on, baby, let's go. And she said, oh, that's so sweet. You know, she was so nice about it. She wasn't upset. So we get to the gym and we're getting ready to get on the treadmill. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good today. Like I'm feeling blessed by the Lord. Let's go. I put my headphone in. I'm like, oh, I'm about to jam out to some music. I'm about to go in. I'm going hard. So I start running. You know, I start picking it up, and I look over to grab my phone. I start turning up the volume on it. And I'm like, okay, let me see how high this thing goes. And I keep on pressing the volume button, but it doesn't seem like anything is changing. And then I look at my phone, I say, what's going on? I look at my phone and the volume is all the way at the top. But the sound is not loud at all in my ears. I can literally hear myself running on the treadmill. And I'm like, no. This is not gonna work. I need this to be loud. I look over to my wife and she seems to be struggling with them as well. She's looking at them, she's picking them up and turning them around like this. And I'm like, oh no, maybe this was a bad idea. We finished the run. Michaela and I are both very positive. We're like, oh, great run. We don't say too much about the knockoff AirPods. And we finally get into our cars to go home. We look at each other, and it's that look where we both know, like, maybe we made a mistake with this purchase. Like, maybe this wasn't a wise purchase. And she's trying to be nice because she's like, oh, that was sweet of you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I messed that up. I am so sorry. And I'm thinking to myself, what a waste of money, man. I should have just bought the AirPods. Why did I even spend money on this? Have you ever felt like you wasted your money? Maybe you felt like you wasted time in your life. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but I've been on my way here to Youth World, and I'm on my way, and I'm almost here. And then I look down and I realize I forgot my phone. And I'm like, how did I forget my phone? Or I just forgot something that I have to have in order to be here at Youth World. And so I always text Miss Darling. I'm like, hey, I'm running late. And I pray to God that she doesn't fire me. And I run back as fast as I can to my house. I'm driving like 80, going down the highway. And I get there, get my stuff, get back. And I think to myself, man, that was a waste of gas, man. It was a waste of time. Have you ever felt like you wasted something in your life? Maybe even on a more serious note, maybe you felt like you wasted your energy on a relationship. Maybe you felt like with you were dating someone or maybe even a friendship, a close friendship that maybe it started off so great and then it became very toxic and then it just seemed like everything went downhill and now you guys are no longer in connection and you felt like, man, that was a waste of time. It was a waste of my energy. It was a waste of my emotions that I had poured out to this person. It's easy to feel like we've wasted something. Maybe you felt like 2020 was a waste. Maybe you felt like there was nothing good that came from it. You see, oftentimes, though, I've realized that when we start feeling as though we've wasted something, most of the time it's rooted in the belief that we don't have enough of something. Most of the time it's rooted in the belief that I don't have enough of this, and that therefore it opens up the possibility to waste it. You see, if I was a millionaire, it wouldn't matter if I had bought a pair of headphones and it didn't work out. It wouldn't matter if I bought 5 or 10 or 20 AirPods, because it doesn't matter, because I feel like I have an abundance of money. And so therefore, I'm not looking at it as if I wasted my money, because I feel like I have an abundance of something. But when we live in the realm of not enough, we're prevented from being able to see the providence of God. Do you know that you can live in a realm, you can live in a place, you can live in a space where nothing is ever enough, where the money is not enough, where the joy inside of me is never enough, where my time, I never have enough time. I know a lot of people who always say, man, I'm just so busy, man, I just never have enough time. Have you ever felt like, man, I just don't have enough? And the fear is that you could get caught up living in that realm and never see the providence and how God actually provides, and never see the truth that Ephesians 3:20 tells us, that our God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever even ask or think. I'm not asking us today to neglect reality. I'm not saying, hey, neglect the reality that the number in your bank account is the number in the bank account. That maybe, yes, there may be times where it doesn't seem like you have enough. I'm not telling you to neglect reality, but what I am telling you to do is to step into the truth that God is all that we need. To step into the truth that whenever God shows up, He always provides. To step into the truth that His promises are good, that there's an abundance in our Father in heaven. And so therefore, nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever wasted. Could we start to live our lives in a way where we actually believe that nothing is ever wasted? The lie and the trick of the enemy is to make you feel like everything is wasted. Like you never have enough of anything, so that our lives crumble and our lives fall apart. You see, whenever we live in the realm of not enough, we seem to be more possessive but less generous. When we live in the realm of not enough, we seem to be more possessive of the things that we have, but less willing to give, less generous. You see, if a situation seems like it takes too much patience and you feel like, I don't have enough patience, we don't give out enough patience after that. Maybe a situation takes place and then from the rest of the day on, you feel like, I'm exhausted, I don't have any more patience to give. So the next person who comes to you, you have short patience with them because you're like, I can't give any more of my patience because I'm already exhausted. I've already used so much of it. I don't have enough to be able to give to every single situation. And the truth is that you do. Whenever the emergency comes in your life and then out of nowhere you have to drop a large amount of money, what is your response? Do you seem to have a different kind of response to your family whenever they say, hey, we should go out to eat tonight? Or when your child's saying, hey, I want some ice cream, I want to go and do something that maybe it really does require money, or your spouse or anybody starts talking about money, do you start getting frustrated because you feel like I don't have enough? When I was in school, one of the things we learned in psychology was that most of the arguments and disunity inside of a marriage is surrounded around issues with finances, and I realize that finances are very important, but here's the reality: when we start to put our finances in the hands of God, when we start to put our finances in the hands of God, therefore we need no hostility towards anybody. Therefore we don't need to argue. Therefore we don't need to complain because our God takes care of us. We always have enough in Jesus. Nothing's ever a waste. The reality is that in my hands, things can be wasted. In the hands of a human being, in my hands and what I have, things can be wasted. But in the hands of God, things become gems. Things become diamonds. Things become precious. Situations that were meant to destroy you are actually building you up now. Situations that were meant to kill you are actually bringing life to you now. Situations that you thought were the end of you are now the beginning of you. Because our God says He's working everything for the good of those who love Him. That He's turning things that were meant for evil to good. And so when you look back at 2020, don't look at it and say, oh man, well, it was a wasted year. There was nothing for me. No, the Lord is good. He was good in 2020. He's good in 2021. And you need to know that 2020 was not a waste. And what's going on right here in the world, in your life right now, is not a waste. Nothing is ever wasted. I want to take us to a place in Scripture, Mark chapter 14 and verse 3. Mark chapter 14 and verse 3. I love what takes place right here. The dialogue, the whole entire scene that's set. Jesus is coming to the end of his ministry because he's actually about to go to the cross. He's actually about to be sent to the cross, and only moments before this is what's taking place. Verse 3, it says this: while he was in Bethany, reclining at the table, in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. I don't know what nard is. It doesn't sound good, but it probably smells great. I don't understand. But anyways, she broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Now, we read that, and I'm like, okay, this whole situation is pretty weird. If I was at a friend's house and a random woman decided to come in and break a jar of perfume and pour it on my head, there'd be a lot of things that would be going on. We would have to answer a lot of questions. I'm sure my wife would have a lot of questions. She would be like, what is this woman doing, okay, breaking perfume on my man right now? What's going on? I don't know what would take place. And I would probably get up and be like, hey, babe, I don't know what's going on here. This is really weird. This is really weird. But there's a cultural context here that Jesus goes on to explain that she's actually preparing him for his burial, that the people at the time didn't understand, and even right here and right now, it's even hard to be able to comprehend and understand. But verse 4 goes on and it says this: some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, why this waste? Why this waste of perfume? Verse 5. It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. They rebuked her harshly. I think that this scene right here, what goes on in this moment right here, takes place all around us and is currently taking place around us more and more. We're finding Christians who are taking on this same exact attitude to one another. I feel like the Lord put it to me like this. Let me put it to you like this. Christians are battling Christians over what's more Christian. Christians are battling Christians over what's more Christian. Well, you know what? I think that the church should spend its money and they should do it this right here and this right here and this right here with it, or else they're not Christian. Oh, well, why are you hanging out with those people over there? That's not a Christian thing to do. But you were hanging out with those people over there. Well, that's not a Christian thing to do. And so we're battling and we're saying, well, that's Christian and that's Christian. Oh, my favorite one is this, is whenever it comes down to politics, everyone's like, well, this is the right way right here. This is the Christian way and this is the Christian way. If you're not doing this right here, then it's not the Christian way. If you're not this, if you're not a part of this party, then you're not Christian. And so what we've got is so many people bickering back and forth about Christians being Christian, doing Christian things. And in the same exact situation, the woman walks in and she breaks the jar over Jesus' head. And they want to discuss, why didn't she sell it and do something good with it? It probably would have been great for her to sell the perfume and to give to the poor. We've got to stop battling one another over what is Christian and what is not Christian, because I don't think that's the standard. It's what is Jesus? What is Jesus? Could that be what it is? One of the key phrases growing up in my life that became really big, and they started publicizing it and making it really cool for the Christian community, was WWJD. Come on now. Y'all know what that means. You know what it means? Put it in the chat. What would Jesus do? Come on, man. I remember you could go into the Christian bookstore, the Mardells. It's everywhere. They got bracelets. They got shirts. They got hoodies. They got everything. WWJD. What would Jesus do? And man, I remember I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. That's awesome. But as I got older, the phrase started sitting a little bit weird with me. I started feeling kind of weird towards the phrase, and I have nothing against the phrase. I think it's rooted in good and purity. But the issue that I came to with the phrase is that so many people want to use the phrase, what would Jesus do? And the reality is most people don't know what Jesus would do. Most people don't even know who Jesus is. Most of the Christians are saying, oh, yes, this is what I think Jesus would do right here. But when we look into the scriptures, it doesn't seem to line up. And so we've got so many people walking around saying, I think I know what Jesus would do. I think I know what Jesus would do. How about we get rid of I think I know what Jesus would do and actually go to the scriptures and see what would Jesus do? Maybe that's the question for you today. Do I know Jesus? And if I don't know Jesus, do I have the ability, do I have the authority to speak on what I think he would actually do? And I love what he does right here. I love what he does. Jesus turns to them. In verse 6, he says, leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor will always have with you, will always be with you. And you can help them anytime you want. But you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. Verse 9, truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Where else do you find in Scripture something this powerful, something that a person, a human being does, that Jesus steps up and acknowledges? Anywhere that the gospel is spoken, this girl right here has got to be talked about. Her story is one that's very important. This story right here goes on for centuries and centuries because this story's got to be talked about whenever you talk about me. I hope that God looks at me and says, anytime you talk about me, you should mention Sam. Because he actually lives for me. He actually believes in me. He's actually obedient to me. Sometimes the question isn't what is more Christian, but the question is what is obedience? You see, for the woman, I'm sure she went through all of the ideas in her mind. I could sell this. I could give it to the poor. I could maybe even keep a little bit of money for myself. I'd still be doing a good thing at the same time. And then I could walk away with a little bit more money. And we start to rationale all of the different things that we could do. Instead of looking to the Lord and saying, God, what do you want me to do with this oil? It doesn't matter what everyone else wants me to do with the oil. It doesn't matter what seems logistic. What matters is what you say, Jesus. And so the standard is Jesus and obedience to him. We've got to realize that devotion to Jesus may appear to be a waste in the physical, but in the spiritual, it has significance. Come on. We've got to realize that devotion to Jesus may appear to be a waste in the physical, but in the spiritual, it has significance. If you've been waking up and you've been praying, and people are saying, hey, you need to get more rest, keep waking up and praying. If you've been giving and being generous to the Lord and saying, hey, God, my finances are yours, and people are saying, why are you giving like that? Why are you doing that? Keep on being generous and giving to the Lord, because what's seen in the physical as a waste in the spiritual has significance. Keep speaking over your children, even though you don't see something changing in them. There's spiritual significance in that. Keep praying to the Lord. Even when it feels like you're rambling and you're saying the same things over and over and over and over, because there's spiritual significance to that. The woman was criticized, and they rebuked her and were upset with her. They spoke all kinds of things about her, I'm sure, that day. And for a lot of us, we get so caught up, focused on what everybody else is saying about us. Oh, well, how is she doing? How is she raising her kids? Why are they doing that? Why are they going to that school? Well, I'm thinking, well, she's asking for money, but she's doing that with her money. Like, we just start listening to everyone else. And before we know it, we're just replaying all the things that people are saying in our minds, the things that even people who are loved ones have said to us, our mothers or our fathers who have said about us. We're just replaying all of these things in our minds, and it's just getting to us so much. But sometimes the things that others shame us for are the things that God is praising us for. The things that they say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, here's the reality. God didn't give it to you. He gave it to me. God didn't give you the dream. He gave the dream to me. God didn't give you the vision. He gave it to me. So why are we consulting people who don't have the vision, who don't have the dream, who don't have the idea, who don't even have the relationship as to what the Father is saying to us? My prayer is that for us today, the voice of others and the voice of opinions of other people around us would decrease, that the voice of the Father would increase. That it would be so prominent, it would be so prevalent in our lives. Stop replaying your mess ups and the words and the things that people are saying, because God has said, I've already taken it. It's not a waste. I have it. I have it in my hands. So I quickly want to just move through 3 things that we can do practically this week. 3 things practically we can do this week to realize that nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever wasted. 3 things have to increase in our lives. We need more grace for people. We need more generosity, and we need more gratitude. We need more grace, we need more generosity, and we need more gratitude. These are 3 things that are so hard to give when you feel like you have so little. It is hard to give grace when it feels like you don't have a lot. Have you ever found yourself in a place where you feel like, man, I'm just really holding on to all of these things that I have right here, and every little small thing that people do, you seem to just explode on them. You seem to just get really upset with them, and you seem to not have as much grace on them because you're saying, I really got to take care of this, and you're not helping me take care of it right now. I've got to take care of it. I've got to take care of it. And God is saying, give them grace. My curiosity is, if God had the same grace you had, where would you be? Do you have grace for people? Do you have love for people? Do you have patience with people? Especially in the moments when you feel like this is a waste. When those thoughts come up on your head and you say, man, this is a waste, is your first response to say, you know what, I need to give grace to people? Is your first response when you say, I don't feel like I have enough, to say, you know what, let me give grace to people? Generosity, more generosity. This is a hard one, especially when it feels like we don't have a lot, especially when it feels like we don't have enough. Is it hard for you to be generous? Do you feel like God has asked you at some point to give and to be generous with whether it's your finances, your money, your time, your tithe, whatever it is, and He's asked you to be generous with it, and you're like, I don't know, and you start trying to think through it, and you're like, well, logistically, this doesn't make any sense, and I don't know, maybe next week, just wait till I get paid in 2 weeks or anything else like that. Like, are those the thoughts that go through your mind? Are those the things that you start thinking whenever the Lord says, hey, it's time to be generous? We've got to increase our generosity because the kingdom works totally different than here on earth. The scriptures tell us that when we give, more is added. That's the beauty of it. It's like when we give our lives over, we then find our lives. This is the beautiful paradox of what Jesus came to do. Is He came to turn it all around. And so now whenever you're giving, you're not just giving. There's so much more that's coming in it. And it doesn't even have to be for you. Sometimes the beauty of giving is seeing the life transformation in other people's lives. Sometimes the beauty of being generous is just seeing things flourish in people's lives that wouldn't have had an ability to flourish if you had not been generous. Do you live a generous life? Do you give? Or is the first thing to go whenever things get hard and it seems like you have less, is the first thing to go your tithe? Is the first thing to go your offering? Is your first thing to go your giving and being generous to people? Do you start holding on to that? That's what the enemy wants you to do. The enemy wants you to hold on so tight because he knows as soon as you release it over to the Lord, He's opening up a floodgate. He's opening up the blessing. He's opening up so many potential opportunities for you. He's opening up favor for you. He's opening up peace for you. Are you a generous person? Let our generosity increase. And finally, more gratitude. Guys, let's be grateful. Let's be thankful. Did you know that your thanks is actually a weapon to fight against your anxiety? Did you know that Scripture tells us that just by giving up thanksgiving to the Father, are you grateful? Are you thankful? This past week, my tire got a flat in it. And I'm driving down Cooper and cars are honking behind me and I'm really just trying to make it around the corner at the Discount Tire. Praise God, there was a Discount Tire right around the corner and I'm trying to make it around the corner and I'm just hearing it scrape on the bottom. I'm like, that sounds terrible. Like it's painful for me. And I pull in and They go through everything and they tell me like how much it's gonna cost. And I think to myself, whoa, I don't got that. Especially because you go to get new tires, they never sell you one tire, they gotta sell you 2 or 4. It's like you don't just get to get one. So they're like, no, man, you gotta get the 4, you gotta get the 2, you gotta get the 4. And so I'm like, okay, I'll get it. And I think to myself, man, that was even more expensive than I thought it was gonna be. And I remember texting Michaela, and the first thing I said is, hey, my car got some new shoes. I got some new wheels, babe. It's awesome. She said, oh, okay. I said, yeah, it was a little bit more expensive than I thought it was gonna be. I had to give actually a lot more than maybe what I thought it was gonna be. But here's a really cool thing, babe. Here's a really cool thing is that I know that since I just had to do that, God is setting us up for a blessing. He's not just gonna leave us out here to dry. I know that whenever I get to the end of me, He's starting and He's saying, hey, you know what? Take a seat, I got this. Let me take care of this. That's the kind of God that I serve. That's my Father. I don't know what you believe about your Father, but that's what I believe about my Father. I told her, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see it. And guess what? Have I seen any money come in? No. Bills are still due. Still got to pay things. Even on today, it's like, yeah, it's still happening. But you know what I found is I found peace. Even in the situation that maybe a year ago I may have found anxiety in, I was able to find peace in it. Because nothing is ever wasted. Because I know that my God is the provider. Because I know that my God is the promise keeper. Because I know that whenever I give and I'm being generous and I'm loving and I'm being graceful to other people, there's no other response than for me to be filled up with the glory of God, than me to be filled up with the peace of God, than for His providence to be shown on my life. Nothing is ever wasted. I feel so strongly, just as I'm closing right now in these last couple of seconds, to say to someone, you're not a waste. You are not a waste. Somebody needs to point to themselves and say, I am not a waste. I am not a waste. Because I think that some people out there may be feeling like, I'm wasted. I mess up everything. I can never get things together in my life. My life is a waste. My story is a waste. God, I can't do anything with this. But what I want you to know is, first and foremost, God bought you at a price, and that price was pretty hefty. What I want you to know is God saw you before you loved Him, and He loved you and sent His Son to die on a cross for you. What I want you to know is God has been calling you your whole entire life because He loves you and He sees you as valuable. He sees you as royalty. He sees you as His son. He sees you as His daughter. You are not a waste, and your story is not a waste. I'm excited to see how the Lord is about to show up in your life, and He's about to turn your life around. And those stories and those times of pain and those times of failure are turning around, and you're about to see how good of a God that we serve, that He's turning what was bad into good, what was old into new. I love you, and I cannot wait to see you. We're rising up higher through God's power. Hey guys, I'm back. I'm here with you right again. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. I hope that the message was impactful. I hope that it moved you. I hope that it's changing and shifting your year, that you would know that nothing is ever wasted. Hey, thank you to everybody who has been giving so faithfully and generously. I know for me, even this past week, I had a situation where my tithe didn't go through, and I was looking and I said, oh man, my tithe didn't go through, and I realized it really late. And I thought to myself just for a moment, well, I could go a week without tithing, I could go a week without giving, but I decided to be obedient. I decided to step out and say, you know what? No, I'm gonna make sure that I give my first fruits. I'm gonna make sure that my finances are in the hands of the Lord. And because of that, I've seen so much blessing in my life just through my obedience to the Lord. And so seek the Lord and see what He's asking of you to give to Him with your finances. For those of you guys who wanna give, there's a couple of ways you can give. You can text Youth World to 77977. You can give online at godsworldchurch.org under the Give tab. Or you can give through our P.O. Box.
Hey, for those of you guys who have been joining us on our Facebook, stay up to date on everything that's going on our Facebook. You can find encouragement there, and you can find our messages right there so that you can be encouraged throughout your whole entire week. Make sure that you're sharing them, and make sure that you're following and you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hey, we cannot wait to see you next week. We're gonna be meeting right here in person at the end of February, and I cannot wait to see you there.